Hello, good morning, and welcome to this session for today. Um, so we have not started actually. We're going to start in. We're going to start at 10:15 a.m. So we just want to wait for everybody to give others some time to join us, so that they're not left out of very vital information. So let's do 10:15 a.m. Thanks for waiting. Thanks for your patience. Welcome back. All right, we're here again. It's 10:15 sharp, and so we're back again, as promised. Um, I believe everyone can hear me, even though I might not be able to see your reactions, but you can chat it you can put it in the chat box from, on YouTube. I'm sure a colleague of mine will let us know what's happening. Um, Welcome once again. Um, to this very insightful class course titled AI in Cybersecurity Defense. Um, for today, our session today, which is the first session, is the foundations of AI and cybersecurity. Yeah, okay, I'll explain that later. So, yeah, I'll explain that later. Let me just for the sake of transparency. So we're about to start. Um, we're about to start now. So did you know that in 2022, the average cost of a data breach reached 4.5 million USD? Reached 4.5 million USD. Um, and that's quite a lot. That shows that that tells us that cybersecurity is the cyber threat is actually escalating, and definitely it means the traditional security measures are actually struggling to keep up with this pace at which cybersecurity, or will I say the cyber threat landscape, is moving. Welcome you once again to our course on AI in cybersecurity defense. Artificial intelligence is revolutionizing cybersecurity and is also enabling organizations to detect and also respond to threats more effectively. Cyber threats are actually evolving very, very rapidly, and attackers are actually using advanced techniques to actually evade detections. We have several AI-powered solutions that can actually analyze vast amounts of data. I'll be breaking that down later, identify patterns, and also predict potential threats. When we leverage on AI, organizations and also individuals can actually enhance their cyber defense capabilities. And in the long run, that will actually reduce the risk of breaches, and also improve incident response time. Um, the instructor for the class, before we start, I would that's do a brief introduction of myself. My name is Bankole Adekola, and I'm a certified ethical hacker. I'm a cybersecurity engineer. I'm also a security consultant. Uh, I'm also an offensive security professional. Also, I've worked with computers for a decade, or for decades right now, and I've also um, specialized in cybersecurity for over 10 years right now. I've actually worked with several companies: Google, Adam Smith, Mark's Lock, Beco Binary, and several other companies. I've also advised and provided security guidance to many of the largest companies in Nigeria. And of course, we've also discovered serious vulnerabilities in so many leading applications. I've also assured security on multi-million naira projects, and even dollar projects too, uh, across the globe. And today I'll be the instructor for our cybersecurity and AI course, or AI cybersecurity course. So before we start, let's do an overview of, let's go through what we'll be learning today. First, we'll be breaking down um, artificial intelligence, where we'll define the scope of AI, the types of AI, artificial intelligence that we have, the key capabilities of AI, where we'll be explaining what we call natural language processing, reasoning, machine learning, and perception. In fact, we're breaking down a complete 4-year course for you in a few hours. We'll also be giving you an overview of cybersecurity, um, where we'll break down the key principles. For those that are familiar with cybersecurity, you would have known that you can't do cybersecurity without having these three principles in place. That's the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Um, we also will explaining several domains of cybersecurity for those that are not so familiar with cybersecurity and so that they can know where they fit um, in the field. We'll also be breaking down networks, endpoints in cybersecurity, and also the application part of cybersecurity. We'll also talk about cloud, which is like the most modern or most recent part of the whole um, domain of cybersecurity. And we'll also be dissecting the cyber threat landscape, where we'll be talking about the common cyber threats, the evolution of threats, AI involvement. A lot of threats over the years as AI has come up. Lots of these threats have actually evolved. AI has actually assisted. AI has actually assisted in the evolution of several advanced threats. We'll also talk about that um, along in the course. We also have the rise of sophisticated attacks such as deepfakes. We also have artificial intelligence generated phishing. We know the general phishing emails, but now when you now combine it with artificial intelligence, it becomes way, way difficult for our endpoints to actually detect, or sorry, our endpoint detection response system to detect some of these phishing mails. And that's because of how clever AI craft those phishing emails. We also have what we call APTs. That means advanced persistent threats. It's called APTs, and those are just as the name implies, they are very advanced, um, and they are persistent. So most of the time, these are threats that will make sure that they achieve the aim of the developer of the programmer um, when they are sent out. So it's advanced, and they always end up getting their job done. We also discuss the intersection of AI and cybersecurity. Um, Talk about AI for cybersecurity, that's the defensive part, and also security of AI, that's protecting AI systems. We also talk about mutual dependencies and the risk. Although today, okay, yeah, let me just leave that for later in the course. So, without further ado, let's proceed into the main course itself. So, what are the goals and objectives of this course? One of the major goals is to introduce AI concepts in cybersecurity, and our aim is to help participants to understand the basics of AI, as artificial intelligence, and also how it applies to cybersecurity defense. We also identify common AI applications in security and explain how AI is used in detecting threats and also responding to incidents. We'll also be telling you some real life use cases and also show you some practical examples where we can of how organizations use AI to also improve the cybersecurity posture. We'll also be highlighting tools and platforms to familiarize the participants with AI powered um, tools, such as some automated threat detection systems and some behavior analytics um, systems or concepts. We'll also discuss some limitations and risks, and the aim is to raise awareness about the challenges of relying on AI, which also includes a whole lot of false positive, some data privacy issues, and also some misuse of data. So we'll also be breaking down some of these things all through the time of this course. Pay attention because we'll also be building some practical skills to provide guidance on how to start using AI tools in your current security environment. And even if you're not a security professional, you would also um gel up some skills on how to use it in your personal lives or in whichever sphere of life that you found yourself. Our target audience for today is because it's actually designed for everybody, anyone who is looking to elevate their cybersecurity game with the power of AI, actually. So whether you're a seasoned cybersecurity professional or you're just starting, I'm going to show you how artificial intelligence is revolutionizing and also and how we defend against hackers, cyber criminals, sophisticated malwares, and also the APTs that were mentioned before. It's also designed for those with a keen interest in technology, internet, including cybersecurity professionals, students, cybersecurity professionals, some that might be looking on how to integrate AI into their defensive strategy. We also have students that are eager, maybe to specialize in the cutting edge field of AI-driven security. AI is the new buzzword in quote, and so it should be of it should be in the right um, path for you to embed AI into your daily or into your daily field or whatever your livelihood could be. Journalists also, activists, business leaders, anybody who just wants to increase their knowledge. There's no prerequisite for the course. A basic understanding of systems, networks, and the internet will just be maybe like an added advantage. But I always make sure that I'll break down any key concept that I feel could be a little bit complicated. I'll ensure I break it down to our understanding. Like I said, there's no strict prerequisite. So, sit back, relax, or just get your notes and jot. Most importantly, you should be comfortable with downloading and also experimenting. You should be eager to investigate and also learn on the topics that we'll be discussing today. We'll be breaking out a whole lot of things which we might not even have enough time to go in depth enough. So it's up to you when you pick interest, to go further and investigate those topics you know um yeah, and that's one of the keys to success when you learn. Enough of the philosophy and introductory part. Of course, um I always like to talk about history or statistics of whatever when I'm taking all these specific courses. I like to know where we are coming from so that we can understand a whole lot of things. Today AI is increasingly becoming embedded in many aspects of our daily lives, from our social media to our work processes. As the technology improves, it actually influences, uh, the influence will also grow. So to understand, the direction in which this technology can take, it will help us to understand how it actually got here. That's 2025. The idea of a machine trying to think actually dates back to very, very ancient times, even in the Greek mythology and all that. It's people had tried to make sure that maybe the statues they were molding had some human-like features. Even the drawings tried to make some things that appeared extremely realistic and somehow like a human feel. So it dates very way back. But since the advent of electronics computing, we have some very important events and milestones that we love to discuss, which is part of the evolution of AI. And yeah, so one of the first significant events, or will I say dates, happened in 1950. And this actually started from Alan Turing when he published his paper titled Computing Machinery and Intelligence. Computing Machinery and Intelligence. In this paper, Turing actually asked the following question, which is, can machines think? That was his hypothesis. Can machines actually think? And from there, he actually offered a test, which is now famously known as the Turing test. So if you've heard of, if those of us that are familiar with some AI concept before, you must have heard of Turing test before. And this Turing test has actually become a central concept in even our today's
AI. It has served or is even serving as one of the ways to measure machine intelligence. And it does this by gauging the machine's ability, to convincingly mimic human conversations and also behavior. Over the past years, we know that this test has actually undergone several modifications, since it was published, but it still remains a very, very important part of the history of AI. Next, we have a significant date, which is 1956. Um, John McCarthy coined the term artificial intelligence, and he did this at the first ever AI conference at Dartmouth College. And that's why I call it. I mean, that's why I see that Dartmouth College on the graphics. And it actually marks the formal beginning of AI as a recognized field of research and study. Before then, there was nothing like studying or doing any particular research on AI, you know, and that was what marked the formal establishment of the field of AI. The conference brought together several leading researchers who came to explore the possibilities of creating machines that could actually simulate human intelligence. Same McCarthy also went on to invent the LISP language. That's LISP language. That's one of the first machine learning language, or would I call it artificial intelligence language that was invented. Then in 1980 came the neural networks, uh, which used a back propagation algorithm to train itself, and it has also become widely used in a whole lot of AI applications. Then over to 1997, we have IBM's Deep Blue um, let's say, system, making history by defeating the reigning world chess champion. That was Gary Kasparov. Gary Kasparov, and he actually did this in a six game match. And that was actually the first time that a computer um, chess playing program could actually beat a world champion. You know, Deep Blue's victory, that's the IBM's Deep Blue victory, actually demonstrated that computers can actually outperform humans, in highly strategic games. And became a hallmark of intelligence, and the machine's ability to calculate millions of moves per second, combine the achieved advancements of game theory and also some mental shortcuts, enabled it to be able to probably outmaneuver Kasparov, who was the um, world best chess player as at that time. That's how IBM Deep Blue also solidified its place in history. Then over to 2012, there's somebody called, there were some two YouTube engineers, Jeff and Andrew, who conducted an experiment using a very massive neural network of about 10 million unlabeled images. In AI, we have what we call labeled and unlabeled. Not only in AI, actually, in tech world, you have labeled and unlabeled data. And so we had 10 million unlabeled image sources from YouTube videos. And during the experiment, this neural network, labeling, without any prior labeling, was able to, was able to demonstrate some, was able to actually learn to recognize patterns in the data. And in fact, one of the neurons, in fact, one of those, I'm sure I've heard a story of where a uh, a robot, or let's say an artificial intelligence, became particularly interested in images of cats, you know. And this discovery was a demonstration of how unsupervised learning um, could actually, of how unsupervised learning can autonomously learn features from a vast amount of data. This achievement actually marked a very massive turning point for deep learning in computer vision, especially. In 2020, OpenAI, which is what we all know as ChatGPT today, introduced what we call GPT-3, making it one of the largest and also the most sophisticated AI models to date. GPT-3 actually demonstrated the ability to generate human-like text, also engage in conversations, write codes. A lot of developers use it to write code, translate languages, and also generate creative writing based on just our natural language inputs. After that, OpenAI launched several other versions of their AI, the DAL-E, followed by the DAL-E2, followed by the DAL-E3, which are all generative AI models. And these models are actually capable of generating very highly detailed images from textual descriptions. These models use advanced deep learning and transformer architecture to create complex, realistic, and also artistic images based on user input. Um, AI in visual content creation. I mean, AI in visual content creation aligned. Sorry, Dell 3. So this new OpenAI in 2023 allowed users to be able to use visual content creation to turn ideas into imagery without any so without even any design skills. If you go into your AI, just tell it, draw me an image showing the XYZ of several things. In fact, recently there's been an out surge of AI generated comedy videos online. See a complete video generated just from prompts. In fact, there's some movies that have been created just simply from prompts, and it came out like a complete, high budget movie. Not all those low budget, very high budget movie. So current AI trend points. They will now have 2025, and you can see that it points to the new evolution of generative AI operating on smaller and more efficient foundation models. We see when DeepSeek came with their own model to compete with ChatGPT, that was more like OpenAI, that was more like the market owner at that time. Um, can also see the rise of multimodal and agentic AI. Um, and this is where specific AI models, work together to complete a user's request very fast. We've got to a stage where you can just tell your AI, hey, make a call to my mom, um, do this, place an order for me, and it will complete this. This is like almost like you sending a regular human on an errand. And this is already possible. This is not even something out of science fiction or anything. You can just tell your Siri or your Google Assistant, help me dial XYZ number, help me do this, help me check my flight bookings, several things like that. These are tasks that on a normal day you will want to send in a regular human to do for you. For now, the current trend has gone so wide that you can just point your camera to be fixing your vehicle or fixing your bike or something. You can point the camera to a particular tool and tell that, oh, how can I fix this? Where can I get it? And the AI is going to tell you everything. It can even generate an image for you on how you can put it out and do a whole lot of things. So AI has actually gone, you know, way, helping users. The agentic level of AI is, really, really, really mind blowing. And then further into the future, we see autonomous vehicles will be cruising the highways without anybody in them. We will see videos being created, text. In fact, people write complete projects using AI. Once you pay for some of those models, then you're able to generate almost your complete thesis for your PhD, not even a first degree. So, that's to show you the level at which AI has actually grown from 1950 to 2025. They can actually, in fact, these days, AI, some people actually have AI as their assistants, helps them schedule calendars. So a lot of jobs also, are being taken over by AI. But, that means that's also one of the reasons or importance of this kind of course. So it breaks down AI and tells you where you can fit into the next level of technology advancement. Now, enough of all this talk about AI. Um, what is AI? So you can just take a few minutes to think about what is AI. Okay, so have we thought of our, I mean, what we think of AI? What is AI? What is AI? Well, we all know. I mean, in fact, from all that I've said, some of us should have been able to, even if we didn't know what it is, have an idea so far. Intelligence actually means the ability to understand or to think. Applications, uh, yeah, to think. Applications and devices equipped with AI can see and identify um, objects. They can understand, they can respond to human language. They can learn from new informations and experiences. You can see that when you're even chatting with your ChatGPT, it understands you. You can even just go to your ChatGPT and tell it, can you tell me who I am? Can you just tell me who you see me as from your own point of view? Things like that. And AI can learn from those informations and also the experiences over time. So they can make detailed recommendations also to users and experts. They can act independently, you know, which is almost replacing the need for human intelligence or maybe intervention. You have examples of driverless cars, even aircraft, unmanned area vehicles yeah, like the drones, taking out heavy payloads. You can see the last attack on some country. You can see that it was just a very simple drone attack, you know, unmanned, nothing, no human, so there's little human collateral damage from that. So these are things that on the normal day you won't send a machine to do this for you initially. But now we have driverless cars, we have several things, working on their own robots that you can even send. We have countries that even now the delivery services run purely on robots, and all the likes. So that's to show you the level at which AI is actually evolving. Now, we have several types of artificial intelligence. Um, we have several types of artificial intelligence. Each AI type often differs or often provides us with some very unique capabilities and also the application. And that's also what shapes um, several industries and also influences our everyday life. So let's dive into the various forms of AI and then also explore their distinctive features. So we have them based on capability and also based on functionality. We have them based on capability and functionality. Um, to better understand AI, we must first recognize these two major aspects or major types. It's very important so that each of them have their distinct characteristics and also the innovative applications also. So the first one is based on capability, and so I'll just brush over it because I also explained it in some later slide. So we have the narrow AI, which some people call. We have the narrow AI, we have the general AI, that's AGI, also that's artificial general intelligence. And then we also have the super intelligent AI, and then that's for capabilities. Then we also have them based on functionalities, which we have the reactive machines, the limited memory AI, the theory of mind AI, and then the self-aware AI. All this, there's a table that I created for easy um, graphs that we can easily look at it. But let me just break it down quickly for us, one after the other. So narrow AI is widely used to train a specific or to train on a specific task or maybe narrow task. That's why it's called narrow. Some people also call it weak AI, but it's not so weak, but probably because of the fact that it cannot actually diversify its strength across maybe other areas. So they call it narrow because it actually performs their designated tasks, but it lacks the ability to generalize its tasks. And a very simple example of this AI is the voice assistant, like Siri or Alexa, that understands specific commands. You can tell your Siri, hey, Siri, do this, do that. It can't do more than that. More than, making calls for you, checking what a particular thing means, turning on the light. Hey Siri, do this, do that. What does this mean? Nothing more than that. You can't send Siri to do some extra stuff for you that you might do send some other AI. We also have even facial recognition systems. Their own job is just to recognize your face and grant you that access. We see several apps, using this feature of AI, where maybe you're trying to make a large sum of transfer and it's asking you to do some of those verification things, and the likes. That is the only thing that particular AI can do. You can't reprogram that AI to now start picking up biometrics because that is not what it was generated or it was programmed to do. Then we also have what we call the general AI, and this actually refers to AI systems that have human intelligence and also the ability to perform various tasks. Systems like this have capability to understand, to learn, and then to also apply a wide range of tasks that are similar to how a human can adapt to various tasks. While it is true that the generative AI is, probably still theoretical. We've seen research projects like OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, or Google, yeah, it used to be Google Bard, very instrumental steps towards this general AI model. These models can actually generate human-like text, answer questions, and even perform various tasks. Various tasks. We also have the super AI, which surpasses the intelligence of a human in solving problems and also very creative. It is very, very creative in solving problems. The creativity level of the super AI is way above that of humans. Super AI can also develop emotions, desires, needs, and also beliefs of his own. Can develop all these things that we as humans can also develop. And they're also able to make decisions of their own and also solve problems of his own, just the way a human do it. Just the way, in fact, sometimes way better in some tasks. So once theoretically, actually, it's actually something more like out of science fiction, those are our sci-fi movies. But theoretically, once AI reaches this level of general intelligence, it can learn faster than humankind. And this will lead to capabilities and knowledge that will definitely surpass that of humankind. So we should be on the watch out. Actually, so not all these things actually have negative consequences. You know, this kind of AI could actually revolutionize fields like medicine. You know, develop vaccines quicker than ever, perform some experiments. Analyze heavy medical data and then bring out data that would have been extremely fatiguing to do. It does it without any stress. Heavy big data. And it could revolutionize even medicine, surgeries, give you suggestions on surgeries, science, technology, help us get to space, several things. I was watching one of our key players in the in the in the AI industry, and he was mentioning of how he got a book that would have taken him 4 years to read or something like that. And I think it was something on space. And he immediately just ingested all the data of that book into his AI. And his AI model summarized that book for him in less than in a very short time. And he was able to grasp the knowledge from that book as compared to if he had gone to sit for over how many hours or several years trying to, pick up the knowledge from that. So that is the advancement. That's how quick these AIs can help us solve problems. Then we also have the limited memory AI, that can learn from the past data to improve future responses. Most modern AI actually fall under this category. That's because they use historical data to make decisions and then also to predict. But they don't have long-term memory. They don't have long-term memory. Then we also have machine learning models, which are particularly in autonomous systems or robotic. They rely on limited memories to perform better. And this is like the self-driving cars. They just observe the road, check the traffic sign, check for human movement or any other cars before they now make their decisions that, based on what they've been able to see from their past experience and then the current condition. Also, chatbots too, and self-driving cars are some of the examples. You could go to some platforms that have also integrated AI into their chatbot system, and then you see that it's based on it can remember your recent conversation and then also improve the flow so that its replies are a little bit more relevant. I think back then, when the Meta AI in WhatsApp came out, when you ask it something, you can't it couldn't continue that conversation at some point. Then I think they upgraded and now it's better. But initially, it couldn't remember your last conversation. And it didn't make the flow of that conversation to you know to be to it didn't make the conversation to flow you know, and some of the replies were no longer relevant because it wasn't checking your previous input. And so we also have one other one called reactive machines. And they are like the most basic form of AI because they operate purely based on present data and then they do not store any previous experiences. They don't store any previous experiences or learn from their past actions. This system just responds to particular inputs with fixed output, and they are unable to adapt. Don't adapt. One example of this is the IBM's Deep Blue that defeated Kasparov in 1997. It could identify the pieces on the board and then make predictions, but it could not store any memory. It couldn't store them in the memory. So it was just acting. It was just acting. We also have AlphaGo from Google, which played a board game called Go. I think it's a Chinese board game also. And it also won some well-known Chinese players in that game. And so we also have what we call self-aware AI, and this is an advanced stage of AI that possesses self-consciousness and also awareness. This type of AI have the ability to not only understand and react to emotions, but also to have its own consciousness similar to um, that of a human, similar to that of a human. Um, while we are still far from achieving this form of self-aware AI, self-aware AI, it remains the ultimate goal for all AI developers or development environment because this opens some philosophical debates about consciousness, identity, and then the rights of an AI system as if they could ever get to this level. But a lot of research is actually going down. Some potential applications of this could also be, fully autonomous systems that can make moral and ethical decisions. You know, uh, so I was, sometimes. So, for instance, you could have our current self-driving cars will not hit a pedestrian, or it's not programmed to hit a pedestrian. But there are some situations where you have seen a pedestrian holding a rifle or holding a pistol, and you're on the steering. What would you do? I think the next option will be to, self-defense first. I'm not advising anybody to do that. I'm just giving that example. But self-defense will be your first thought of. I mean, what will come to your mind first. But an AI will not do that. It will not hit that human or run over that human to save you as the occupant. But you as a human, you have that moral and ethical decision to make. Which is the level that uh, we're trying to get AI to get to. It can independently push its goals, based on its understanding of the world around it too, just like we as humans. Then we also have one called the theory of mind, which is the last one on our list. And what this one does is that it aims to understand human emotions, our beliefs, our intentions, our desires. So it's theory of mind. And then while this type of AI still also remains in development, it allows machines to engage in more sophisticated interactions by perceiving emotions and then also adjusting its behavior accordingly, based on what it has perceived. And some applications where we can find this is human robot interaction, where an AI could actually detect emotions and then adjust his response based on, empathizing with that human. So, for instance, you want to shout at somebody, but you see the person crying. Empathy will tell you not to shout on that person. Same thing, that's the level of theory of mind that we're looking at robots to get to. And then also, it could also be some collaborative work where, you could work with a robot in the theater room or in some very high sensitive environments without having the fear of it going haywire. I hope you're grasping. Now we have some key capabilities of artificial intelligence. We'll explore four key capabilities, which is the machine learning, reasoning, natural language processing, which we call NLP. And then we also have perception. And we're also going to talk about how they are actively transforming cybersecurity. So these ones are not futuristic concepts, actually, like most of the previous one. They're already in works already. They're already in security operations centers, threat intelligence platforms, even next gen defense systems. So, um, let's go on. Let's go. Although we'll just skim the surface today, I promise to go deep on this particular topic. Um, this particular topic in our next session because it's gonna help us to it's gonna help us introduce where AI is actually in action, which is our next class for that's our next class actually, or our next session. So I'll break this down properly in that class. But just for the sake of our learning, I'll just do a brief overview. So for the machine learning, which is the first part, ML, which I'm sure most of us have heard ML. I'm not talking of ML 350, I'm talking of machine learning, which enables systems, to detect anomalies, and patterns in vast data sets, big data. And what it does is it enables systems to learn from that data without any form of programming, without any form of programming. Currently, or most times, anything you want a machine to do for you, you have to program it to do it. That's why it's called that's why they call developers programmers, or even develop. You have to develop that machine to do that thing. But in this case, um, it learns from data without any explicit form of programming, which is a very critical, which is very critical for us in identifying cyber threats without relying on any form of predefined rules. It can actually sift through mountains of data like logs, network logs, user behavior, malware signatures, and to identify patterns that we as humans might actually miss in our security operations. So ML actually adapts over time. It learns from the new threats and then um, improves detection over time. One AI like this that I've worked with is called Darktrace. Very similar. Um, it has a self-learning AI, capability, and what it does is that it builds a pattern of life for every device and user on a particular network where it resides. So it will build you like a life pattern of your life. It will have almost everything, and then it will flag any deviation in real time. So if you're not supposed to be home by 12, you're home by 12. That's a deviation from your real life or your real pattern of life. That's a deviation from your pattern of life. Something like that. And so whether it's an insider exfiltrating data or maybe a ransomware trying to spread silently, it will detect it and flag it. You know. But ML alone is not enough. It's not enough at all. So cyber threats require context and also logical analysis. And this is where reasoning reasoning now comes into play. So reasoning actually enables AI to connect the dots, between those seemingly unrelated events, just like a human analyst would. But in this case, it should be faster and then without fatigue. The only thing you're doing is you're burning power and some CPU resource consumption somewhere, but there's really no fatigue on the human body. And this capability is very vital for us as cybersecurity professionals for our threat intelligence correlation, where AI pieces together indicators of compromise, what we call IOCs, to uncover attack campaigns. You know, Imagine a scenario where multiple employees receive a phishing email. Maybe a server logs in at an unusual after hour activity. Or a new vulnerability is trending on hacker forum. AI with reasoning capabilities of, let's say, capacity can actually infer that these are steps in a coordinated attack and then recommend those preemptive actions to you as the security professionals. It could recommend things like maybe patching your system, putting an upgrade, blocking a malicious IP that it has seen online, or maybe from some threat intelligence platform and the likes. We have examples of it too, like the IBM Watson for cybersecurity. It uses reasoning actually to digest thousands of threat reports and then it suggests a suitable response. But here's the challenge: much or most of that data we deal with isn't actually neatly structured. I think I mentioned this before. It's unstructured, it's unlabeled, isn't neatly structured. So attackers actually sometimes hide clues in emails, chat logs, or even some social media. And that's why we actually now need what we call the natural language processing. That's the NLP. And what this does is that it allows AI to read, to interpret, and even generate human languages for us. It's a game changer, trust me, for cybersecurity. It's a game changer. But cyber physical systems like maybe industrial controls or maybe smart buildings, they also require AI to see and hear. So more like a sensor kind of AI in this case. You want to see the threat or hear the threat. And that's the role of what we call perception, which is the last part of this key. I'll break this down in details in our next class actually. So that's where we have perception. That's the role of perception. It wants to see and it wants to hear. So what perception does is that it gives AI the ability to process real world sensory data, sensory data, like images, videos, audios, and this is actually helping us to open several frontiers in our cyber industry field. In biometric security, facial recognition systems, we also like the one we have on our phones, use AI to actually authenticate the user. We have some banking apps in Nigeria now that when you want to transfer large sum of money, you have to be opening your mouth, bending your eye, lifting your neck, and all that. All those are AI. It's AI that is detecting those movements, you know, and all those things. It's an AI embedded at the back end, processing those things. And that's the perception part. That's a real world sensory data. And that's why you have to move. You can't use one fake video to do all those things and to work. It was in those days, but now AI is very, very advanced. It can detect when you're trying to fake it, to bypass some security, fake it to make it to bypass some security controls, you know. But together, these capabilities, create an AI powered shield against cyber threats. We also have how we use all these things positively to defend ourselves in the AI world. So an overview of cybersecurity for now, enough for AI. Over to cyber. So what is cybersecurity actually? Cybersecurity, or will I say with cyber attack increasingly sophisticated and evolving, you know, there's and evolving, there's danger to your sensitive data. Trust me, there's serious danger. As attackers actually are employing new methods, powered by all those artificial intelligence I just mentioned, and also combined with some social engineering. Social engineering, you can do some quick Google search on that, but it's actually like when you're trying to manipulate humans to do what they're not supposed to even do on the normal, they are engineering the human social um, aspect, something like that. So, um, what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity actually is the state or process of protecting and recovering computer systems, networks, devices, and also programs from any form of cyber attack. You know, cybersecurity professionals, trust me, your role surpasses just your computer and the servers. It's also physical security is also plays a role. That's why I see that when we're doing compliance, you ensure that your servers are in some places that have some level of physical control, and all those things. We have preventive controls, we have CCTV cameras. So, any form of cyber attack, cyber security, I mean, it's part of it. There are several parts. There are also some key principles in cybersecurity. You cannot do cybersecurity without knowing these key principles. In fact, I don't think I do any cybersecurity course without mentioning these principles, because it's without it, trust me, you can't do nothing in cybersecurity. And it's confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It's called the CIA triad. Anyone working in this our field must like it. Must be interested in CIA triad. Not central intelligence agent. This is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It might sound abstract, but these three pillars are actually the heart of everything that we do in cybersecurity. So I'll break down each of them for you. Um, Additionally, yeah, there are some three key concepts to it that we must understand: authentication, authorization, and non-repudiation. This helps. All these three concepts, additional concepts, actually help us to enforce the CIA properly. So the first CIA trial I'll be talking about is confidentiality. Confidentiality, and this only confidentiality allows only authorized users, um, to process. Only authorized users and processes should be able to access or modify data. So confidentiality is actually ensuring that the information is only accessible to those who are authorized to access it. It's more like it's about keeping secrets. It's about keeping secrets. So you can think of it like a digital vault. When a bank customer logs into their account, they should only see their own balance. And not somebody else. I can't log in as Bankole and be seeing Suleiman's account balance. That is a breach already. So that is loss of confidentiality, because I should believe that my account, even bankers cannot just randomly go and view your account. That's the level of confidentiality that is implemented in those systems, you know. And I shouldn't see someone else. So if a hacker manages to break in and view private records, then just know that the confidentiality has been compromised. Confidentiality has been compromised. All right, just want to be sure that I'm not speaking to myself. All right, confidentiality has been compromised. So, in practice, one way we enforce this confidentiality is we do things like encryption. We ensure that your data is encrypted both in transit and also at rest. In transit and at rest. Uh, and also when you're processing it. I know that there's one more. So, when it's at rest, when it's in transit, and also during process, it should be encrypted all the way, because you don't know where an attacker could be lurking. So access control is also one way, permission based on your roles. You can access some particular things. That's why you see when you go to the bank and you want to do some things, they need to reach out to maybe a senior person to grant that authorization. That's what we call role-based access. So even in the banks, what the tellers are seeing is different from what the manager is seeing, is different from what the next person higher is seeing. So there are levels, and that's role-based access control. And that helps. That's also a security control that helps us, to do a lot of segregation of duty and the likes. We also have multi-factor authentication, which helps us to prevent an unauthorized login. So even these days, even if you know someone's password, you might not still be able to log into their accounts, because they will also have an MFA. Just as a side note, please, if you don't have MFA on any of your, not bank account, to even all your social media, WhatsApp, please, this is a reminder for you to go set it up on any accounts. In fact, the first thing I do once I enter any account, once I log into any application, is to look for where there's an MFA to activity, because I don't want any pressure. I don't want, I know the risk. And so that's the first thing I do once I log into any platform, any app for the first time. I look for immediately active all my Facebook, my WhatsApp, all have 2FA. Even LinkedIn. Should have 2FA because I was that's me digressing though, but let me just give share this story. I had a friend that got hacked on her LinkedIn, and it was very simple. She didn't even click any link. All they did was sent her a an email, and she just opened the mail, just opened the mail. She didn't click anything, and in the next few minutes, her account was taken over, almost taken over. What saved her was her 2FA. In fact, they had logged in. I think maybe they leveraged on some vulnerability existing in LinkedIn. But if not for her 2FA, they would have taken over that account totally. They had even changed some things, done. But 2FA was her protecting was her protecting factor. So yeah. And so even WhatsApp, you'll be shocked how WhatsApp gets hacked on the regular these days. You hear people call and say, my WhatsApp got hacked, please help me recover it. And trust me, if you had a 2FA on your WhatsApp, you will get hacked. And so, except maybe these days now with AI now, guys might have found a way around it. But it's better. Prevention is better than cure. So most times it's after most people get attacked that they learn from all these things. But let's not be like that. Let's be proactive and do the needful. So go activate MFA as we speak on all your accounts if you've not done that before. We also have what we call data classification. That's also another way we secure from we help make sure that data is confidential. That ensures that data is treated accordingly to what it is. So we have several classifications of data: public, private, confidential, and the likes. So not all, yeah, and the likes. So, yeah. So a breach of confidentiality is what most people actually think of when they first hear data breach. That's a breach of confidentiality actually. That's an unauthorized disclosure of sensitive information. That's a data breach. Next on our list is the which stands for integrity. Integrity. Now let's talk about integrity. Integrity is all about trusting the accuracy and consistency of data. And in simple terms, can refer to that as the as you can say integrity actually ensures that the information we are seeing hasn't been tampered with, whether maybe by accident or even on purpose. eh, You know, you should be sure that it hasn't been tampered with. Imagine you downloading a software update for something, but at the back, that's why I always advise people to don't be using crack softwares. You know, don't be downloading software from all those torrent sites and all those things because it always comes with some things embedded, some malware embedded in it. You know, So it's a breach of integrity because you expect to install just that app, or funny enough, there's something else attached to it. So that's a breach of integrity. Sometimes even legitimate, you're downloading from a real site, but those hackers are very smart. Sometimes they've already embedded something behind that application that you're downloading. So they could be really, really smart. So I always advise people to don't install those crack Windows, crack Microsoft, and those things come with some heavy, heavy malwares in them and backdoors. Another example could be modifying an invoice amount, maybe in the financial database. Uh, so the numbers may look fine on the surface, but if they've been altered without authorization, then trust me, whatever it is at risk, and that's a breach of integrity. We also have things we use to safeguard this. We have hashing, digital signatures, you know, audit logs, and then database controls. Uh, they're also there to help us ensure integrity. And finally, the third leg of our triad, which is A, availability. It means that systems, applications, and data are only accessible when needed, especially only by authorized users. And, this is the part of cybersecurity people tend to mostly overlook until it now fails. So when your cloud server goes down during a product launch or maybe a payment gateway is hit by a denial of service attack, your availability is compromised. But we also have some common strategies we use for ensuring availability. And this includes redundancy and failover systems, load balancers, backup, disaster recovery plans, denial of service protection tools like Cloudflare, Imperva, and the likes, Cloud Armor, Google Cloud, several ones like that protect us from DOS. High availability configurations too in our cloud environment helps us to always remain available. Remember, if your system is secure but it's unavailable, it is not useful to your users, and that's also as damaging as a breach, you know. Once it's not available, what's the use? What's the use of going to an ATM when you can withdraw from it? It's unavailable, but that does not mean there is a breach. So next page is together confidentiality and availability, actually form the backbone of our cybersecurity. We often refer to them when analyzing. Um, we often refer to them when analyzing threats, designing systems, or even responding to incidents. Any attack, system failure, will typically affect any one of these three things. You know, once there's a breach, you know, it will definitely affect any of these three things. CIA triad. So now, next for us, we need to um, understand the domains of cybersecurity. Since we now have a grasp of what the foundational principles are, the next thing will be to look at where they can get applied. That's why we're talking about the domains now in cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is not just a single wall around the organization, as some people always think. I have a firewall, fine. But no, that's not the case. So it's more important. It's more like a layered shield, protecting different components of an internet or an IT environment. So let's break that down. We have that broken that down into four uh, major primary domains that you will encounter most often: network security domain, endpoint security domain, application security domain, cloud security domain. You are going to find most of those four domains all through your career in cybersecurity. Now, let's break that down a little bit. This is probably network security, actually. It is probably the most familiar domain, and it is about protecting the integrity and usability of your network and data during transmission. So we're talking about firewalls, intrusion detection systems, um, um, virtual private networks, segmentation, ZTNA, that's zero trust network. And of course, in the age of AI, we are seeing AI enhanced network intrusion detection systems also, you know, which actually learn what normal traffic looks like. And then when there's an anomaly, it will flag it, So that's AI enhanced network intrusion detection system, which is very, very vital to us to cybersecurity professionals. The next one is endpoint security. Endpoint security. Um, so endpoints are actually devices that are connected to your network. Anything from your laptop, uh, smartphones, IoT devices, and even industrial sensors. They are all endpoint devices, and it is very, very vital to us also as security, because once an employee can click a malicious link and then also down from there download the infected software. In fact, that happens a lot. Yeah, you find, so most times you go to the site, you click something, and then next thing you see like several browsers opening. That's actually maybe an ad here or some form of a malicious link that you just clicked. Um, yeah. So the security controls that can be applied here include antivirus, what we call EDR, and endpoint detection and response system. We have mobile device management, MDM. We also have patch management. It's also one of the ways we can secure our endpoints, and application whitelisting. Whitelisting of application means only applications that are allowed to communicate with an endpoint. That's when you are whitelisting. So these days we always advise people to do whitelisting instead of blacklisting. You know, people do blacklist. So you can never blacklist all, but you know all your own that you want to whitelist. So we always advise people to do whitelist than blacklisting. You know. As attack grows more sophisticated also, um, EDR solutions now integrate with AI to detect some patterns. We have what we call UEBA, as UEBA, that's user entity behavior analytics. You know, it can detect some patterns in your behavior. And then when there's an insider threat or probably a lateral movement, it's able to quickly identify it and flag appropriately. We also have application security. Every web app, API, or software as a service product is potentially an attack surface. It's a potential attack surface. So application security is the practice of building secure software and protecting it from attacks. You have to be able to build secure software from the software development lifecycle. It also comes from the SDLC of the platform of whatever you're building, software you're building. So we have tools like WAF. We also have things like static analytics. You know, that's what we use here. What these tools do is that it scans your application for security. We also have secure coding practices. We always advise developers to go take courses in secure coding practices because it helps them a lot. It saves you. It's better you catch the threats before it even goes live. So I've seen where people are using some JWT tokens as something else, several things like that, or you're implementing a financial platform, you don't even have OTP on your onboarding, too many things like that, or several things which are things you could have avoided if you have a good knowledge of secure coding. We also have pen testing. What pen testing does is more like ethical hacking, where you bring in a security professional to come and test your application to see how it will respond if it was actually under an attack. It's also one way that we secure our applications. So with AI in the future, application security is being tested in several ways, including automated bots, that can actually simulate attacks and scan for some logic flaws faster than even humans we do, you know. So we have that since actually we have automated tools that do scanning for us. We have Suit, we have Zap, so many of them, Nasals, all the automated tools that they'll help us to scan. No, this was supposed to be cloud security. So sorry. Um, see. Okay. Yeah, so this was supposed to be cloud security. 1 second. Apologies, please. So yeah, cloud security. This most organizations actually, this is actually like one of the most relevant in today's environment because almost every organization is either fully cloud based or hybrid. Which means that they have moved their data to some cloud infrastructure like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud Platform. You know, and in cloud security, one way we deal with the security implications here is with identity access management. IAM, call them IAM, data encryption in transit, at rest. It's also one way that's implementing all those TLS, SSL thing and likes. Secure configuration and posture management. Once you have to ensure that your cloud platforms and infrastructure have some secure configurations in place. We also have cloud native firewalls and policies, which we also use. So we have the ingress and outbound traffic, rules set up, you know. which is very, very important. So cloud security actually is also where shared responsibility model come into play. So you secure your data and access, and the provider secures the infrastructure. So like AWS, all they do is they give you your your server. They are securing your server for you. It's up to you to now do the right thing uh to secure your own side. It's a shared responsibility actually. It's a shared responsibility. They've given you the tenant, it's up to you to now do the likes because they can't be responsible for somebody stealing your password and being able to log in. So they can't be responsible for things like that. But they have some level of responsibility they also take when there is a breach, which is very, very rare in the cloud platform. And here again, AI is playing a role. Cloud platform now offer machine learning based threat detection also. We have anomaly alerts. I've received several alerts sometimes when it some of my cloud platforms there we manage sends us some funny alerts of some things happening, things like that. So it could also predict some misconfigurations for you, show you where you have some exposed data. That's how AI has actually advanced for us also in this cloud platforms. Shows, yeah, there are tools that once you once you deploy them, it will show you all your misconfigurations on your cloud. So it's very important to us too. So now, to understand where AI fits into cybersecurity defense, we must first have a grasp of the environment it operates within. So the cybersecurity or the cyber threat landscape um, isn't a static picture. It's actually a dynamic one. It's an ever shifting battlefield. It's always evolving, always evolving. We live in an age where there's omnipresent digitalization. You know, everything from our smart homes to critical infrastructure, almost every facet of our life is now connected. And this actually creates an exponentially larger attack surface. And it also offers more entry points for our malicious attackers or actors to act. Also, coupled with the global connectivity, you know, threats are no longer uh, are no longer restricted by geographical boundaries. Yeah, they're no longer restricted. Nothing like I'm in Nigeria and if you hack one place visit China. You can once there's internet, you have everything in your hand. A cyber attack can be launched from one corner of the world and it will impact in fact in seconds actually. You will see the impact already in some other far end of the world. So there's no longer boundaries when it comes to that. So we are actually seeing an unprecedented level of sophistication and skills, in attacks also. And also another thing. Adversaries are now getting more organized. They are better funded than the original professionals too, And they also have access to increasing, or will I say, they have access to also leverage on advanced technologies. The stakes are incredibly high, incredibly high, and it has a lot of financial and reputational impact. You know, um, if an organization could fall victim, of course, a single data breach can cost millions. It could also erode customer trust and even lead to regulatory penalties. So before we used to always see cyber attacks as just viruses or one phishing email, but it's way beyond that now. They've grown. They're now very coordinated. Things are now automated. They have intelligent campaigns with the help of AI, from ransomware that could cripple businesses, some heavy espionage in some states. You know, the stakes have never been higher, never been higher since post-COVID. So yeah, so let's break down some of the common threats that form the backbone of this landscape we just talked about. The first one is the malware. This is a broad category which covers uh, malicious software designs, uh, malicious software designs, to disrupt or damage or sometimes to gain unauthorized access to some system somewhere. So in this case, we're talking about viruses, that could self-replicate like worms, Trojans that will disguise as some legitimate software somewhere, and then perhaps most famously in recent years, ransomware, which is like the feared, um, most feared attack. It's like, yeah, that's what most professionals fear the most. Hardware, WannaCry has done a lot of things, that's crippled organizations. Some multi-million organizations had to close down because of some ransomware attack of their environment. There's also spyware. And what spyware does is that it's designed to secretly monitor and collect information about the user. A lot of us have spyware running on our machines, but we don't. It's just collecting your data, collecting all your information, seeing what you're doing until the day you choose to strike. So that's why it's called a spyware. To just be there, observing, observing and monitoring. The next one is phishing and social engineering, and these aren't new at all, but they remain incredibly effective because they target the weakest link in any security chain. You know who that is? That is the human. That's us. So what phishing and social engineering does, yeah, it targets us humans, and sometimes through deceptions, through deceptions, through emails, or phishing emails, or SMS, which we call smishing, SMSing, or even voice calls, which is the new level now, which AI has helped people to get to. So people now can clone your voice and call your loved one and tell them that, hey, I'm in trouble, or hey, please send me that urgent 2K. But one thing, don't do my phone, so send it to so number. And so I've seen that a lot. I've seen that even sometimes they even make video calls. They even make video calls. You see the person that this one a bank they talk. Make I send them the money through. Meanwhile, that's some deep fake things. I think I'll still talk about that later. Yeah, that's some deep fake. So you know that's also another common threat that we face. One other one is the denial of service attack, and this is when an attacker will aim to deliberately overwhelm a system, deliberately, or a server. So what he does is that he will flood it with traffic and he will make it unavailable to other users. You get? Imagine, imagine 10 people trying to get into a small B2 at once. It's not possible. It's either you break the door of that B2 or one person body go break. It's either of them. So nothing. So what it does is that it will make sure that it gives you denial of service to ensure that legitimate people won't have access into the uh, environment. Most times they use botnets to actually launch those attacks or call botnets. Yeah, let's not forget the insider threats, and these are often overlooked, but they can actually be very, very devastating because they come from within the organization or within a trusted environment. Let me use that word. Yeah, they come from a trusted environment, you know, because they're often overlooked. They're often overlooked. Could be from an employee, contractor, or anybody, even a partner who could on a normal day have some legitimate access. But whether your actions are malicious, sometimes it could be an employee that was sacked, just trying to seek some revenge. Or you could just see that, oh, there's this loophole and let him use it to make some financial gain. And like I always say, sometimes it might not be intentional. You know, whenever we're in for some investigations like that, always first thing I always do is to doubt if that user actually, sometimes when there's an attack and somebody clicks and they're like, maybe the guy did it deliberately. So what I always say is, sometimes it's not deliberate. Trust me, you might have not known. You see, say they want dash you free iPhone. You click the link now sometimes. So you can't blame some users sometimes. But that's also falls under what we call insider threats, sometimes accidentally exposes sensitive data. And the damage could be severe depending on the data that has been exposed or the privilege that the person has on the data. Hope we're not getting bored. We're almost done for today. Now we have the evolution of threats with AI involvement. So we have some threats that have actually evolved as a result of AI. And how come? We have automation at scale, enhanced evasion techniques, also have targeted or personalized attacks. Um, we all know that AI is also a catalyst for transforming these existing threats into something far more potent, far more potent. AI actually casts a significant shadow. AI actually casts a significant shadow, um, which actually enables adversaries to be able to. When I say adversaries, I'm talking about attackers also. Adversaries to operate with unprecedented efficiency and stealth. So stealth means you won't even notice that they are there. And one of the most profound impacts is the automation that is at scale. Imagine an attacker now doesn't no longer needs to manually search for vulnerabilities or maybe craft some unique malware. AI now can just automate the vulnerability scanning, across several networks, and it will actually identify those weaknesses in those networks and even generate exploits much faster than any human. Since since the invent of since ChatGPT became what it is, these days, once I'm doing some pen test, the job is so easy. I just go to my ChatGPT or Gemini, depending on the one I'm using at that point, and I just say, "Oh, help me do X, Y, Z. I want to be able to bypass this." And, it generates it for me, some short codes. It has even helped me. Trust me. Lately, there are some codes that we use script as ethical hackers, not, but we develop some codes. But so sometimes when I see some script, I'm like, wow, AI has actually gone way, 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 way. So I don't even think sometimes I don't even think of such creative ways to maybe make an exploit or a payload to or a payload, that might be used for an attack. So these days, once I just type the prompt, do some modifications, do this, do that, and you can get some very nice, clean looking code. And you see that was fast. 5 years ago, I will have to do some crazy research, reach out to some senior colleagues or some mentors or something. But these days, you just sit down and all you do is generate some very nasty malwares that could use in some environments. But as usual, always be ethical in your operations. You know, always be ethical. You so these things help us actually. It helps us a lot. You can create malwares that will evade even some very very strong antiviruses. Very very strong antivirus. So, this also means that attacks can be launched quickly and also against the browser. So in fact, if before I could do, so if I can write a script and then write another script to help me distribute it across a wider range, and so the possibilities are so wide. Possibilities are so wide, and then this automation also leads to enhanced evasion techniques, which is the second point which I noted there. AI can be used to develop polymorphic and metamorphic malwares. You know what I mean by polymorphic and metamorphic? So these are code that can constantly change its form to avoid detection. That's like a code that is an AI on its own. So when it sees that this is what is in place to detect that is there, it will switch, use another option. So, These are these are AI driven systems actually, and they learn to bypass, detection systems because they will mimic some very legitimate network traffic or even some user behavior. So it will be very, very, it will be incredibly difficult actually to spot them. Incredibly difficult. Finally, AI also enables targeted and personalized attacks on a scale that was previously unimaginable. So by leveraging vast amount of publicly available data, from social media profiles, corporate reports, your LinkedIn, anywhere online, anything, sometimes even from your stolen device or from your lost hard drive, lost memory card, things like that could be generated and personalized attack. So here we construct some highly detailed profile of an individual and organizations, you know, and it will allow them to, also craft this our social engineering campaign that will be very, in fact, they will tailor it with so much precision that it will, it increases the chance of success. You just keep telling the AI to, fine tune this, to that, you look at the code again. So these days, what you're looking at, that's why I said, I always laugh when people say, this is me digressing again, when people say they don't want AI, see how AI reduces the fatigue. If, like I said before, to make one small script, I don't open like 20 tabs on my laptop, downloaded like 50 PDFs, gone through different articles. But these days, that would have taken me hours. But these days, in very short time, I just do the right prompt in some of those um, AI models, and it gives you some very precise, responses. And so, yeah, so they no longer create generic spam emails. It's highly convincing, contextually relevant. You just look at it and you're like, this is so real. If you have watched How to Kill a Monkey, you see how they were talking about, forming, okay, that deep fake actually. We make the image look like it's the person talking to you. Of course, that's, that's a very relevant deception. If I can use that word. So that's a very relevant deception because you're actually using the person's real videos, real images, and the person is looking like is the person talking to you. So AI isn't just helping defenders alone, it's also empowering attackers. Let's be sincere. It's also empowering attackers because cyber criminals they now use AI to automate attacks, craft some very highly convincing emails and even generate polymorphic malwares. Polymorphic in the sense that it can change on its own. Get there, it sees that this person is using a XYZ antivirus. Okay, this is how to evade it. It gets there, it sees that this person is using this. It knows what to do on its own. That's one of these AIs we described before, capable of taking decisions on its own. And, when we see these things, it just tells us that our traditional rule-based security systems will no longer be enough. You must use AI. You must use AI to stay ahead of the curve. So we have the rise of some sophisticated attacks like the deepfakes, you know. So beyond enhancing the existing threats, AI is also giving rise to an entirely new different category of sophisticated attacks. It's actually pushing the boundaries actually of deception, and infiltration. But let's look at some very prominent. Okay, I think we're looking at three majorly, or three or four very prominent examples. Starting with deepfake. Start with deepfake. So, what exactly are deepfakes? So, these are AI generated. I call them synthetic media. You know what synthetic means? Something that is not original. So that's AI generated synthetic media. It could be videos, images, anything that are so realistic and they can convincingly manipulate existing content or create an entirely fabricated scenario. Think of a video where a public figure appears to say something that they never did, or an audio recording of a CEO. giving an instruction that they never uttered. In fact, we see our G boys doing this a lot, where they get some video of some CEO somewhere or finance person, and then they call the finance person and say, "This is the CEO talking. I'm somewhere in Miami. I don't have access. Can't send money to so account." And of course, you're seeing your CEO talking to you up beside the pool or the one beach. You would definitely want to send the money so that you don't get fired by the next day. So that is it. So the implications are actually very, very chilling. Very, very chilling. Impersonation becomes incredibly easy these days. Incredibly easy. So people can just call you randomly and say, what, maybe in Nigeria, but if somebody can, even in Nigeria, somebody can form and say, this person has been kidnapped. And then they'll give the phone and say, hear the person's voice, person two will talk. You say, this is my person. No, true, the person has been kidnapped. There's some deep fake things happening. It could lead to several massive financial fraud, even identity theft, you know. So as deepfakes are also powerful tools, they could also be used for disinformation. Imagine coming online and seeing our president making some announcement. Meanwhile, he's some guy in his bedroom that has done some deepfake. So it could be used to spread some false narrative, even manipulate the stock markets or influence public opinions. The lot that happen very well, and it could end up causing some widespread chaos. You know, Even these days, it can and it undermines trust. These days, I have to look at some videos twice before I say, "Oh, na real or na fake." You know, so it poses some risk of reputational damage, as some fabricated evidence can be used to discredit individuals or even an organization. Seen that a lot. Seen that a lot where those AI, in fact, the person now needs to come out and start debunking that those things are AI, blah 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 blah. The likes. So we also have another one, which is the AI generated phishing. So this is just beyond generating fiction. So we have all seen phishing emails, and most times one of the tail signs in those days that people used to tell us to look out for is check for grammatical errors, check for one thing. But these days AI has changed everything. I can even send a phishing email to Russia. All I need to do is type the English and tell the my AI to help me translate it to Russian language. And my phishing email we go. I can even craft it in Yoruba language. I can craft it in Hausa and it looks so realistic. So realistic. So the game has changed. It has changed totally. So this just goes far beyond generic phishing. AI models can actually analyze heavy amounts of data about a target, through their social media posts. That's how I always advise you be careful what you post. Their company public announcements, several things. And AI can actually use this to craft some highly personalized or contextually relevant emails. You know, Contextually. So instead of sending out millions of identical emails, an AI can just generate thousands of unique ones, convincing narrative with different people. And if you send it well, just create a script that will distribute it according to the behavior or the data you have gathered. So this AI generate this most of these AIs actually the laws, or what I mean, or their attractions are designed to actually bypass some traditional filters. And they use dynamic content, um, and they avoid keywords that typical spam filters always look out for. So, when we are setting all those spam filters, we always set them, using some particular spam filters. But these days, the AIs now know what those filters are, and then they avoid those keywords, which end up leading into some massive breach. The next is APTs, that is advanced persistent threats. If you were with us from the beginning, explain what an APT is. So we have AI now helping APTs. AI is now helping APTs to AI is now helping APTs to be more advanced. Actually, it's transforming APTs. Um, so yes, and this is the last one actually for the rise of sophisticated attacks. And then from there we'll go to the intersection of AI and cybersecurity, and then we'll call it a day for today. Yep. So if APTs, yeah, persistent threat. Um, so like I said, APTs were like the apex of cyber in the cyber world when it comes to attacks. And currently with AI, now virtually almost undetectable, and it's very, very adaptive. So AI can actually be leveraged for a high efficient reconnaissance. So it can automate the collection and analysis of several data, which is similar to what I explained before, but also as humans being the weak points, we are the major vulnerability and we are likely to always click that phishing link, you know. So for one other thing it's used for is for exploitation and evasion also. Exploitation and evasion. Yeah. AI driven malware actually can learn to adapt to its behavior. We mentioned this before too. So polymorphic. So there was also polymorphic. So there was an antivirus, or like call it a malware that was made at some point that when you're using your laptop, it was a crypto mining malware. What it does is that when you're using your laptop, it will not do much. You just use maybe 10% or 5% of your resource. But when you notice that you're not using your laptop, bam, it will fire your resources to like 80% or so. You get, so you are using your server or your they're using your server to cash out somewhere with Bitcoin or some crypto mining stuff. Meanwhile, you're here requesting for urgent 2K. So, these our malware people I mean, they are very, very advanced these days. And polymorphic, like I said, if you watch, observe the usage of your then, act accordingly. So um they have been able to use, AI now develop some very, very intelligent persistent mechanism. I mentioned that APT means advanced persistent threat. So of course, AI can now be used to develop those very intelligent persistent mechanisms. You know what I mean by persistent? When somebody is persistent, give me this 2K now, give me, no, that's persistence. You know, that's a persistence. Um, so it ensures that what yeah, that's persistence. So even our command and control centers also now um use AI. So those infrastructure for C2C, for C2 actually can actually be enhanced by AI. You can dynamically change your C2 channel, the communication pattern, IP, making it much more harder for even the vendors to detect or to block that communication between the compromised system and the attackers. So in essence, actually, let's just say we are facing the rise of a self-learning adversary as attackers. AI-driven entities can continuously refine their tactics, their techniques, and their procedures. So that's what we call it TTPS. TTPS as tactic, techniques, and procedures. And APTs now continuously refine those TTPs, based on their interactions with the target defenses. So if they see that, oh, this one get preventive, this one get detective, this one, they will act accordingly to what the target defenses are or is, which is making them incredibly resilient. They're ever there. It's difficult to play PTs. Very, very difficult to play PTs. So now this brings us to a very crucial crossroad, which is almost like the last one for today. It is the intersection of AI and cybersecurity. Where do they meet? So it is very vital to understand this relationship. Um, um, this relationship that is actually a double-edged sword, and that's because it also provides us with some opportunities as well as some significant risks. So we need to actually view this as as a two sides of the same coin. So on one hand, AI is an incredibly powerful tool for defense, offering capabilities, human analysis can't even match with it. But on the other end, AI systems themselves have become the new target for attacks, presenting us with very unique vulnerabilities that need to be secured actually. So it's a very symbiotic relationship as cybersecurity actually protects the integrity, confidentiality, and availability of an AI system, ensuring that they are not compromised or misused. Inversely, or let's say conversely, AI also enhances cyber security capabilities. And it does this by providing the intelligence and the automation that is needed to defend against the modern threats. Our challenge actually is to navigate this dual dynamic, leveraging AI's strength while we're also proactively mitigating its inherent vulnerability. In a nutshell, um, I would like to say AI helps defenders by detecting anomalies, automating our responses, and also predicting threats. But we must also secure AI systems themselves. Because if attackers manipulate AI models, they can bypass some heavy security. And, this also creates a very complex interplay between the offensive and the defensive. And with that, I come to the end of today's class. Um, Next week, let me just do a quick recap of what we learned. Um, we learned the understanding of artificial intelligence, where we define the scope of AI, the types of AI, the key capabilities, where we mentioned natural language processing, reasoning, machine learning, and perception. We also broke down an overview of cybersecurity itself. Of course, we can't talk about AI and cyber without breaking down cyber also. We mentioned some key principles of cyber, CIA triad, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We also mentioned domains of cybersecurity, of course, where you need to apply those your key principles that you have learned. And that is network, endpoint, application, and cloud cybersecurity. The next one is the cyber threat landscape. So we have cyber threats, where we talked about common cyber threats, the evolution of threats with AI involvement. We also talked about the rise of sophisticated uh, attacks, deepfakes, AI-generated phishing, advanced persistent threats, and the likes. And then also just touched briefly on the intersection of AI and cybersecurity. We're out of time today. So on our next class, we'll continue from here. In fact, on our next class, actually, we're going to continue from the key capabilities of AI. We'll start from there, break it down further so that we'll be able to tell you the key capabilities of AI in relationship with cyber security. Where we'll be breaking down how natural language processing helps us in defense, reasoning, machine learning, and perception helps us in the defensive strategy of cybersecurity. We'll also talk about the security of AI that's protecting AI systems themselves. We'll talk about mutual dependencies and risks. We'll also talk about a few other key concepts, how to defend, where cybersecurity comes in as a defensive tool. We'll talk about several aspects of that in our next class. Ensure you don't miss it. Come on time next week. Might not have the luxury of waiting as long as we did today next week. So please try to join on time so that you'll be able to get a lot from the class. Um, Thank you very much for paying attention. If you have any question, feel free to send us an email, or you can also reach out to me on my LinkedIn, um, Bankole Adekola, and I'll respond to you. So if you have anything regarding anything at all, not necessarily even cybersecurity, anything in the tech world, anywhere you need some mentorship, feel free to reach out to me on my LinkedIn. Thank you very much for your time, and have a really, really lovely weekend. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much for being part of the class. Cheers. So see you next week. Please check your emails for the links so that you don't miss out. Check your emails, refresh, reach out to us if you can't find it, and also prepare for the assessment on the third class. Attendance is also of essence because it's also one of the things we might also be looking at, giving out the certificate. So try to attend. If you have someone that missed today's class, tell them not to miss the next one and the one after, as it plans to be um, packed, it plans to be packed with a few more case studies, use cases, and also the defensive strategies of cybersecurity. Of course, when we talk about defensive, we also talk about offensive and then tell you how to defend it. So it's a both way, it's a symbiotic relationship there. So um, please attend all the classes, don't miss out on anything because there's an assessment at the end, which will is the assessment from the assessment that will determine who gets certificate also. So please join the classes. The questions we'll be asking are actually coming from all those classes that will be taking. We'll see if we can share the slides, but I'm not sure. Probably maybe at the end of the whole course, we might share it as a package to everybody. But please tell your friends, tell your family, let them join the next class. Even if they're not technically inclined, I'm sure you noticed today that we tried to avoid all those buzzwords in the field of cybersecurity and AI, so that everybody can learn from it and be part of this incredible revolution that is taking place. So don't miss out on the AI journey. AI is not here to take your job. It's up to you, on how it's up to you to utilize it properly. Um, there's this story of when in those days people used to farm with hoes and cutlass, and when tractor got introduced, you know people farmers felt threatened that it's as if these people don't want them to farm again. But for the farmers that were smart, what they did was to go and learn how to drive tractors, and so they were the ones that ended up making it big in the market because they now knew how to drive tractors. With the knowledge they also had about the farming before, they also added the mechanized aspect of it. And so, same thing, there's also the story of when street lights were introduced initially, the electric street lights. There used to be people that used to walk around the night lighting those torches. And then when electric came into existence, street lights got phased out. And of course, those guys that were lighting the torch, those of them that were smart enough, went into some other fields like learning how to probably connect the wires or change the bulbs of the newly invented electric street lights. And so we should learn to always evolve. Same thing, people initially, when automatic cars came into play, people were like, people they drive automatic is risky. You'll be lazy. But look at it today. You can hardly find manual cars on our streets. So imagine somebody that was reluctant. In fact, I had some people that were reluctant to buy automatic cars in the past. I don't think they will think of buying a manual car now, no matter the justification. So learn to flow with the trend so that you won't get left out. AI is here to actually help you. Like I mentioned, if I want to write, in fact, I've learned how to write some code just by prompting the AI. When I say do this is right, I'm like, oh wow, so you can actually do this on this script, you can be this great, things like that. And so use it as a tool to your own advantage. Don't see it as a threat. Thank you very much for your time and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you. Cheers. Bye bye. Okay, I was also told that there's a link on the chat box or something on YouTube. Please um fill the link, fill the attendance sheet. Is for purpose of attendance. Please fill your attendance sheet. Don't worry, you can still invite your people next week to join us. They will catch up, and that's also why I might end up sharing. So please also fill the attendance sheet for us so that we'll have an idea of those that attended the class. And don't forget to like this our page, subscribe if you have not subscribed, follow if you are not following. Yeah, and thanks. Cheers. I can also see a question which I'll respond to by next week. Yeah, let me not waste people's time. So I'll respond to that next week. Thanks. Bye bye.